Welcome folks to our channel where we bring you news and insights on the South Florida real estate market. So today we're going to discuss the South Florida real estate market and the impact of the longer time to sell, or the longer time that properties actually sit on the market before they're actually under contract or sold. Now, this longer days on market affects really all of the real estate. It really significantly impacts the single family homes that are up for sale that folks are trying to buy and sell here in the South Florida area. So, there's several reasons behind this. We're going to go ahead and discuss this in the video today. We're also going to discuss the impact specifically on buyers and sellers, in regards to what needs to be done to take a look at this. How do you assess this? How do you look at it? And basically, how do you prepare yourself both as a buyer and as a seller? So, and finally, we're going to go ahead and give you some strategies as both a buyer and a seller for how you can deal with what's going on, how you can work through it, and basically give you some additional understanding. Let's go ahead and get started. Kind of the reasons for the longer time to sell or the longer time on market. So, and basically we look at it from the standpoint of three different metrics. We look at it from the days on the market, and we look at it from the pending sales, and we look at it from the increase in listings from, this year over last year. So what's really happened is that this time last year, most properties sat on the market for about 41 days. Now we're looking at anywhere between 63 and 65 days. Folks, that's an increase of almost 54%. So what's happening is that, sellers they need to be better prepared to make sure to understand that their properties may sit on this market for quite some time. The other thing is pending sales, which is basically what happens when somebody makes an offer on your property and the offer is accepted. Okay, pending sales are down from 899 last year to 661 this year. Okay, that's a decrease of 36%. That's significant. And that's even more significant when you look at the perspective of there is actually a slight increase in the inventory. So there's actually more properties that are actually available to sell. But basically it's taking a lot longer for those sales to be consummated. And finally, the most telling metric or the most telling indicator is basically the number of new listings. Okay, new listings last year, we were at 1,399 new listings, for this time last year. Now we're at 940. Folks, that's a reduction of basically 26, almost 27%. Okay, that's very, very significant. What that's really indicating is that not only are folks reluctant to buy, it's taking longer to sit on the market, it's taking longer to make the offers, but because of this, a lot of sellers are basically holding off from basically putting their properties on the market. This is why this extended duration, if you will, can impact both buyers and sellers. So folks, from the standpoint of, what's the most obvious reason? Obviously, the biggest impact has been the increase in interest rates. Back in late 2021, when rates were around 3%, you can actually, even in some cases, buy it down to below 3%. And if you got a little creative in your financing, you can get it into the mid to high 2s. So, now we're looking at interest rates that are sitting right around 7%. So folks, that's basically doubling what the cost of money is to buy properties. But the biggest impact that has on folks is twofold. Number one is that properties that buyers could potentially qualify for at 3%, they may not be able to qualify for at 7%. The other problem that causes is that when sellers are not able to get their property under contract and get their property sold, that kind of makes it difficult for them to figure out what they're going to do, because they're not going to want to be in a position to buy until they can figure out if they're going to sell. And if the property sits on the market a lot longer than it did last year, then that kind of throws their plans into a little bit of a kilter. And while the pandemic period in 2020 and 2021 brought basically inventory levels that were at almost a historic low, we are seeing some of that inventory coming back on the market. Now, in some cases, it's because people have made a decision that they want to go ahead and either upsize or downsize. In some cases, they basically made a decision that they want to go ahead and move somewhere else. Okay, so we're really seeing those inventory levels almost kind of regain some degree of normalcy. So, but honestly, we really don't expect to see those inventory levels kind of get back to where things were pre-pandemic until probably mid to late 2024, and it could even be as late as 2025, depending again upon interest rates and how quickly the market can recover, and how much the Fed continues to kind of ratchet those interest rates up. Another factor has been there's a significant decrease in the number of international buyers. When interest rates were low, and property was not really available, this created two very, very strong market conditions. Number one, basically, it really gave a rebirth to the rental market. Rental rates just skyrocketed. So international buyers, although they had no intention of coming in and basically living here, they would buy properties in South Florida, buy properties in the Fort Lauderdale area, and they would turn around, they would rent them out. The declining dollar, increased interest rates, some perceived political instability, okay, as well as some travel restrictions are playing a significant role in the availability of international buyers coming into the South Florida market. Okay, so overall, the increase in listings, cautious buyers, little hesitant sellers, and the decrease in the overall number of international buyers are basically really causing some stress on the market as far as how quickly properties are being sold, how quickly properties are being listed. They're also impacting the sales price, the list price, and and basically the entire market itself. So basically, what is the impact on these longer sales times and these longer times on market to both buyers and to sellers? Well, to sellers, it's very significant. Number one is that basically there's fewer new listings. Folks are looking to see how many listings are out there in their particular neighborhood, or how many listings are around their area, and how long those listings have been on market. And if there is a glut, or a perceived glut, I should say, homes available or homes for sale in a given subdivision or a given area, given community, or if those homes have been sitting on those properties have been sitting on the market for 60, 70, 80, 90 days, that provides tremendous reluctance for sellers who don't necessarily have to sell to go ahead and put their properties on the market. They're just going to be less likely to go ahead and do that because the competition is already high in the market already, and just adding additional properties to that just basically increases the number of properties in the market, and it basically just kind of overcrowds the market. Now, we'll talk about this in a little bit in just a few minutes. That can also be kind of a boon to buyers, because now buyers have a lot more choices. Whereas a year and a half ago, maybe there were only one or two or three properties available in a given subdivision or a given community. Now, in some cases, you're seeing 6, 7, 8, 9 properties, which gives buyers a lot more to choose from. The other thing is that the longer the property sits on a market, okay, then this is a perceptional issue, okay, and basically the longer the property sits in the market, the perception is that there may be something wrong with that property. Maybe it was overpriced. Maybe there's a problem with a previous inspection. Maybe there's some additional work that needs to be done. Now, while a lot of this is perception, that's one of the reasons why you work with experts like my team and I, so we can go through and take a look. We'll work with you to find out exactly what needs to be done to properly market your property. And if there are problems with your property, maybe we need to look at some roof repair. Maybe we need to look at upgrading some of the appliances. We'll work with you to see how we can do that, and how we can best communicate that out, and how we can best take care of those issues. The other thing is that there's been a decreased demand in buyers, okay? Again, we've said it before, the high interest rates have certainly given a lot of buyers cause for pause, especially ones that are looking to finance. The other part of that too is that the overall cost of ownership for single-family homes here in South Florida has gone up dramatically. I mean, everybody's heard about the interest rates. We've mentioned those a few times. A couple other key indices on that is basically the cost of homeowners insurance. I mean, I've said it before in some of our other videos. We have friends and clients that have seen insurance rates go up 50, 60, 70%. We had one of our prospective YouTube buyers that came down was looking at a gorgeous house up in Lighthouse Point. And the house was going to sell for right around $1 million. And because of where it was located, it was on a canal, okay? And it was heavily suggested that even though they weren't going to finance the property, it was heavily suggested that they consider getting flood insurance. Well, homeowners insurance alone on that property is going to be $20,000. The flood insurance was going to be another $22,000. So I mean, you kind of think of it from the standpoint of, I'm going to buy $1 million property, and there are quite a few of those down in the South Florida area and in the Fort Lauderdale area. Lighthouse Point has a number of them. Now you're looking at spending between $40,000 and $45,000 a year just on insurance. That doesn't take into consideration the cost of utilities, the cost of maintenance. Doesn't even take into consideration the real estate taxes, which also have gone up. Now, in all fairness to Broward County, they have kept the real estate tax, the millage rate, consistent for the past 16 years. But when you have an increase in property value, that translates into an increase in real estate taxes. The other thing is that, the other part of it too is for sellers, the longer time in the market can also start to create a bit of a bit of frustration, especially if either A, the sellers as a seller, you've already put another property under contract. Maybe you're having a new condo built, maybe you're having some new construction built, maybe you need to relocate and you're trying to get everything taken care of. So, and you may have to put you in a very, very difficult situation, a very stressful situation where you don't feel like you have the ability or the latitude to do what you need to do in order to maximize the return on the sale of your property. We'll tell you folks, sellers, right now you need to be a little more patient. You just need to be a little bit more relaxed about things. I know it sounds kind of odd in this kind of weird market. Now for you buyers, okay, now this longer time of market can actually kind of work. It kind of work both ways for you. There are some positives and there are some negatives. Okay, basically what it does is that the longer the property is on the market, the more open for negotiation the sellers may be. Now in some cases that may be if there's a relocation involved, or if there is already an existing debt on the property, there may not be that much latitude in the negotiation, but it can. The longer the property sits in the market, the more the sellers are typically open to negotiating. The other thing is that it gives you an opportunity to go back and thoroughly assess the property. Now, one of the things that we advocate, especially in the South Florida area, is that you get an inspection. Even if you're not going to finance the property, go ahead and get an inspection set up. Have an independent third-party inspector come through, take a look at the property, tell you what's good, tell you what's not good, tell you what's concerned, what things you may want to consider changing. If nothing else, it's going to give you an idea of what the potential maintenance costs are going to be, and if you're going to have to make some significant investments in the near term in getting the property to where you need it to be or you want it to be comfortable. So the other thing, the flip side of that is the longer the property sits in the market, the more buyers that come into that buyer pool. So what you may end up finding is that the days of sellers expecting to get 4, 5, 6 offers and the offers being 10, 15, 20, maybe even 25% higher than what the list price is, those days are gone for right now. But if you do get a couple of the property itself has been marketed properly, if it shows very well, it shows clean, and all the advantages and the attributes of that particular property have been properly marketed and properly disseminated out to the buying public, okay, you may end up getting more than one buyer interested in that property. And buyers, that may put you into a little bit of a competition for that particular property. So the longer it sits, okay, if you see something that you like, you probably got to consider jumping on it, making your offer and jumping on it. Lastly, the real estate market itself kind of works in cycles, okay? So right now, South Florida is experiencing what we refer to as a balanced market. What that typically means is that there's not a significant rush of buyers looking to buy right away, and there is not a significant decrease in inventory of sellers who can afford to basically cherry pick the offers that come through. So folks, it's crucial, it really is crucial for both buyers and sellers to work with experts like my team and I to make sure that we can work with you and walk you through all these little pitfalls and pratfalls and all little tips and tricks that you need to make sure that you're marketing your property properly, and that you're marketing it realistically and everything is priced realistically, that you get it out there and it shows the best that it possibly can. So, and the thing is that, again, at the end of the day, there are factors that are working for and against both buyers and sellers here in the South Florida market. The other thing is that, folks, patience is the key here. Gone are the days from a seller perspective where you can basically put your property on the market and it'll be under contract in a day. We've actually had, back in 2020 and 2021, we had properties that went under contract within 2 and 3 hours. As a matter of fact, we had one home that honestly went under contract. We had offers within 30 minutes, and it ended up being where we had 10 offers in one day. So, folks, I would love to have those days come back, and I'm sure that a lot of sellers would, much to the dismay of some of the buyers from that period of time. But because interest rates were lower, because the cost of home ownership was significantly less, okay, it wasn't as much of a factor. We kind of talked about some of the challenges in the market. We kind of talked about some of the impacts on some of the buyers, some of the impacts on buyers, some of the impacts on sellers. So folks, let's kind of get into some of the nitty gritty here. So it's the negotiation process. Okay, now the idea is that basically when the negotiation, you need to make sure that as a buyer or a seller, that if an offer isn't what you're looking for, if an offer isn't ready, you need to be ready to walk away. That works both ways. That's not basically picking on one side or the other. Sellers, if you're not getting what it is that you need or not getting what it is that you feel that you want, you should feel free to basically turn down the offer if it doesn't seem like there's going to be the ability to counter that offer. Buyers, you need to be realistic in your assessment and be realistic in what you're offering, okay? But you also need to be in a position to where, it may be the most beautiful property and have a beautiful pool and a great backyard and a great location, 3-car garage, brand new barbecue, outdoor kitchens, all the bells and whistles. But folks, if it's not going to work for you, you need to be prepared to walk away. This is one of the key roles that an experienced realtor can play. We can get in there. We can make sure that as emotionally involved in the transaction as you may be it seller or buyer, we can give you some kind of subjectivity that is needed to make sure that offers that are being made are reasonable, realistic offers, and offers that are being accepted or are being submitted, okay, from a seller's perspective, is this really truly indicative of the value of your property? Sometimes, folks do. I mean, we've run into a number of times. There are folks that actually think their property may be worth more. And in some cases, we've actually run into instances where folks have actually thought their property is worth a lot less than the market would bear. So again, be ready to negotiate, be realistic in your do any good to basically get hacked off at anybody. Sometimes a seller just does not want to, they do not want to accept your offer. Buyers, sometimes they just don't. Sellers, sometimes buyers just may not agree with what you perceive the value of your property to be. Do not take it personally, okay? It's not meant to be a personal. Remember, negotiation is a two-way street, okay? It's basically, you need to make sure that if you treat each other with respect and you recognize what's going on, okay, that can go a long way into building a rapport with both sides of the transaction. Using these tactics can really just patience, understanding what's going on, a little bit of empathy can certainly make the transactions far more successful. They can make them far more comfortable, also can increase the success rate of the transactions. We've talked about some strategies around there. Let's talk about some of the things that actual buyers and sellers are doing and that are working for them, and some of the things that they're trying to do that are not working for them. Okay, so folks, buyers, you need to be more flexible with your search criteria. Okay, there's all kinds of property types that are available down in the South Florida and the Fort Lauderdale market. So, basically break it into your list of 3. These are the things that you absolutely positively have to have, and they're deal breakers. If you can't get it, you don't want it, or it's not going to work for you. These are the things that you would like to have, okay, that basically make things an improvement for you. It may be a different type of a pool. Maybe you need to have a pool because you have children and there's no pool available in the community, so you need to have a pool to take care of your kids. But whether the pool's a chlorine pool or a salt pool, it's kind of up in the air. Okay, then there are things that would be nice to have. Okay, and you break these into those 3 categories. Both, and sellers, this works for the same thing. You need to understand there are certain things that are critical to buyers. Sellers, there are certain things that are also critical to you. You may have an existing lien on your property that has to be paid off, and you need to make a certain amount of money in order to be able to pay that lien, because if you can't cover that lien, then there's no sense in selling the property. Okay, the other thing is that moving quickly. Okay, once you find something that you like, buyers, you need to make sure that you move quickly. Sitting around and waiting and hoping that it will go down, okay, that typically doesn't work. Our market in South Florida and the Fort Lauderdale area has traditionally been a strong market. It may not be heavy seller, it may not be heavy buyer all the time, but the market is always moving, and rarely, if ever, do you see significant price reductions, unless, of course, the property was overpriced to begin with, in which case your realtor could and should be able to tell you that. Sellers and buyers alike. For sellers, okay, folks, it's real simple. Price the property competitively. Okay, I can go back. I'll give you my age-old story. We were working with a group of folks up in the Boynton Beach area. Beautiful property. Beautiful property. For some reason, they purchased it in November of 2017. It was a fantastic deal. Okay, their situation changed in March of 2019, so it was just about a year and a half later. The situation changed dramatically in March of 2019, and nothing had been done to the property. They bought it basically with a lot of bells and whistles in it, and they paid a good, fair price on it, but they were hoping to, one of the spouses was hoping to kind of cash out on their perception of an increase in the market value. So the property was purchased for $695,000. Nice value, nice property, pool in the backyard, great location, great amenities in the neighborhood. Okay, so in 2019, they were listing it. They were listing it for $810,000. Okay, so the first question anybody's going to ask is, what was done to the property in a year and a half to make it worth $125,000 more? Okay, it just doesn't make sense. So folks, so what ended up happening is that, and they needed to sell. They needed to basically relocate to another part of Florida to take care of some family members for some medical issues. What ended up happening is that we went in, we talked to the sellers. Basically, we could not come to an agreement on what the value of the property should be, what the list price should be. So we ended up walking away. Okay, and it does happen. Doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. I kept in contact with one of the spouses and kind of talked them through it, said they need any help. I got a couple of phone calls from some ideas on what could be done. Folks, the upshot is that the house sat on the market for 9 months instead of selling in 3 months, which was the average time on market at that point in time. Sat on the market for 9 months. They ended up selling it for less than they actually paid for it. So folks, sellers, be realistic in your assessment. Be realistic in the value of your property. Price it competitively. The other thing is staging the home. Okay, now there's all kinds of great, wonderful ways to do this. If you have very nice furniture in the home, go ahead and leave that furniture in there. Have a professional photographer. Folks, we only use professional photographers, professional videographers. These are folks that are professional real estate photographers, professional real estate videographers. You know, it's the only way to do it. They can look for the best possible way to produce, to show how everything goes. Make sure that the home is staged properly. Make sure that if it's a home on the beach or the beach area, give it that beachy look. If it's a home that's near the golf courses or kind of in a more urban type of an environment, make sure it gives them that look. Make sure it's indicative of what it needs to be. Stage that home properly, okay? You know, the other thing is that the worst thing you can possibly do is to have a home not be indicative of the way that you've lived in it or the way that people are going to look to live in it. You know, and these are the kind of things that, again, working with experienced realtors, that's going to help you out. Now, there are many, many tools that we use that we can basically stage the home online. We can take a home that is completely vacant and completely empty, and we can go with all the AI information going on and all the automation and everything that goes on. We can basically stage that home for you so that we can show prospective buyers what that home would look like if it were fully furnished. So these are the kind of things that you want to be looking for when you interview your realtors. So folks, you know, the South Florida real estate market is experiencing, much more prolonged sales cycle. It's something that we haven't seen in quite some time. And for many buyers and for many sellers are just not used to it. Okay. So, and it can be challenging for both buyers and for sellers. But, home buyers and sellers, you can take advantage of what's going on through doing your research, doing your homework, okay? Hiring a skilled agent, hiring experts. And again, I can't stress this enough. Folks, the negotiation is a two-way street. If you don't feel that you're getting what you need, feel free to walk away. Feel free to try to negotiate. Look for ways to creatively negotiate. Buyers, if you're not sure that it's what you're going to do, if it's not sure that what you're going to be able to deal with, okay, then folks, make sure that you can go ahead and make your offer, okay, then make sure your offer is reasonable and realistic, okay. Folks, we hope this video has provided you with some valuable insights. Hopefully you found a couple little chuckles in the video, you found some education. If you would, please feel free to reach out to us at any type with any questions below. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you would, so we can basically increase our channel. And if you would, go ahead and hit that bell and let you notified every time I drop a new video. If you found it interesting, please feel free to share it with your friends. If it was something you didn't necessarily agree with, please feel free to reach out and let us know. We want to make sure that we're continually improving our videos. Thanks. It to B to X.